Hello and welcome to the Fat Doctor podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Asha Lamy, coming to you live from, well, not live, pre-recorded, weeks ahead, in my office in Scotland, where it is a pleasant 18 degrees Celsius. And last week I told you that I was done being nice. I read out my set of rules for life. And some of you stuck around and came along to the next episode. So great. Hi, welcome. So pleased to see you. I am still unclear how this is all going to work itself out. I don't know what it's going to look like. Maybe a few weeks from now, by the time this podcast is aired, although it's not going to be that far away. But things will have changed again. But right now, in this moment, I am telling you that I'm done being nice. And also, there is no solution. I started writing about this. It's all coming from my journal, really. I started writing about this because I was on a podcast as a guest, and I was asked once again, and as is often the case, what would you tell a fat person, who's struggling to access healthcare? Like, what would you tell them? And I was like, it's tricky. I don't really know what you're trying. Like, what is the actual question you're asking me here? And there's two things. The first thing is, I want fat people to know that none of this shit is their fault. It's really not your fault. Like, everything that's happened to you and is happening to you, not your fault. They want you to believe it's your fault. They're telling you it's your fault. Like, literally, you are being gaslit on a daily basis. It's all your fault. Your joints hurt because you're fat. You're tired because you're fat and lazy and don't exercise enough. You're fat because you don't try hard enough. You're blah, 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 blah. They're constantly telling you this shit, and none of it is true. So that's the first thing I want fat people to know. And the second thing I want fat people to know is I don't have the answer. I can't fix this shit for you. I can't. And let me tell you for why. And this is what I try to explain on the podcast. I'm not sure I did a very good job of it, but I'm gonna try again. We all know that everything that, hopefully by now you know that everything you've been told about weight loss is a lie. I started season 6 at the beginning of this year. Once again, I haven't turned my phone off. I started season 6 telling you that everything you've been told about weight loss is a lie. And then I kept telling you about it. And I spoke about it over and over and over again ad nauseum. And then I wrote a book about it and I self-published it and I put it out there and it sold a handful of copies. I'm really, really proud of that. But if you don't know that yet, then you either buy the book or go to noway.org start here and just read the webpage or listen to the first 20 odd podcast episodes and you'll realize that everything you've been told about weight loss is a lie. So I think we all can agree. We have to be at a point of agreement for me to venture any further. So if everything we've been told about weight loss is a lie, how do we what is the solution? What is the fix? Listen, there are two major systemic issues here that are driving these lies, pushing them forwards, driving them forwards. The first one is a racial. Well, no, it's not. They're not the two words. Best two words to sum it up. Let's put it that way. There are two words to sum it up really, really nicely: racial capitalism. If I had to sum it up in two words, that would be it: racial capitalism. The reason your healthcare is so fucking shit, the reason you are being denied basic healthcare is because of racial capitalism. Let's talk about the racial part first. Most of you know, if you've been following me for a while, and more importantly, if you've been listening to other better creators who've been talking about this for a long time, that anti-fatness is rooted in anti-blackness. There are two really good books that you should read if you're not sure about that. One is Fearing the Black Body, and the other is Belly of the Beast by Deshaun Harrison. So Fearing the Black Body is by Sabrina Strings. Read these books, links in show notes, yada, yada, yada. You have to read them to understand this shit. But suffice it to say, if we had to sum it up in a nutshell, hatred of fat people is rooted in anti-black racism. It's rooted in racism. Full stop. And capitalism is also rooted in racism. Um, Capitalism cannot exist without racial inequality. And it extends beyond, it's complex and nuanced, and I'm not an expert by any means by any means, but I do know that capitalism cannot exist without racial inequality. So racial capitalism really important. So on the one hand, we've got a hatred of fat people that is rooted in anti-black racism, and on the other hand, we have a small group of elite, wealthy people, very wealthy, extremely wealthy, billionaires and the like, the 1%, top 1%, a group of elite who are amassing wealth through the rest of us, off the backs of the rest of us. They are amassing their extraordinary amounts of wealth by exploiting the rest of us. And that is what is happening in healthcare, specifically when it comes to weight loss and, prescribing weight loss, etc. When I talk about capitalism, I just want to be very clear about what that is. Capitalism isn't about selling shit and being paid for your work and all that. So I'm not somebody who thinks that everything should be free or, that we should only do things because we're being altruistic. I'm saying that capitalism is what is driving all of the racial capitalism is driving all of the healthcare inequalities, because healthcare is one of the main means of exploiting wealth from the masses. Because when you're sick, there's literally nothing you won't do to get better. I mean, it's it's one of the most important things. When COVID hit in 2020, most things shut down. A lot of businesses, a lot of industries just shut down completely. Healthcare didn't. I got up and went to work every single day. People weren't allowed to leave the house. I was. I got priority into the shops and all sorts because I was a healthcare worker. Like, when push comes to shove, your health is one of the most important things. There are all these sayings, like death and taxes and all that shit. At the end of the day, if you're not well enough to live, then what's the point of all the rest of it? And money can't buy life or health in some respects, but actually in many respects it can. It won't stop you from getting cancer, but it will create many conditions that will reduce your risk of getting cancer. Financial insecurity and the stress of financial insecurity can and will impact your physical health as well as your mental and emotional and social health. So yeah, the system is exploiting you to make money off you. So on the one hand, we've got hatred of fat people, and on the other hand, we have a means of making a shit ton of money. In my book, in chapter 8 of my book, I talk about how much money, we have to put it into perspective to really truly understand what is going on here. In 2025, Ozempic and Mounjaro, together, between them, made their two manufacturers upwards of $75 billion, around that much, in 1 year. $75 fucking billion. The second and third most high grossing drugs. And you know what the worst thing is? Ozempic isn't even a fucking weight loss drug. It is a diabetes drug. When it was being used to treat diabetes, it made Novo Nordisk a small amount of money comparatively, some money, small amount. Now that people are using it inappropriately, I should add, to treat weight loss, because there's actually a study out there that shows that Ozempic is not a great way to lose weight. That if you really want to lose weight, you have to do it using doses upwards of 1 milligram subcutaneously once a week. And so it's actually Wegovy that it should be used for weight loss. Ozempic isn't even a weight loss drug, and yet it made its manufacturer, I can't remember exactly the numbers, but we're talking like $30 billion plus. What the actual fuck? Nobody should be allowed to make that much money. No drug company, no anybody. That's the GDP of a small country. That's how much money we're talking about here. We're not talking about a few dollars or a few $100 or a few thousand or a few $1,000,000. We are talking about billions. Those are quantities of money that most people do not even understand. It's 1,000 million. It's 75,000 million. You can't visualize it unless people do the whole rice thing. You need to go and look at what that actually looks like visually. That's because they're exploiting you. That's why this is happening. That's why there is no fucking solution. $75 billion dollars is too large an amount of money for people like me to contend with, or anyone to contend with. So when people are like, what's the solution? I'm like, they get this is, what do you want me to say? There's Goliath, and then there's the fucking pharmaceutical industry. They are not Goliath. They are like 100 million Goliaths all wrapped up into one. So the hatred of fat people plus the exploitation of fat people has resulted in a healthcare system that for the last 30, 40 years especially, but going back before that, is using your weight to A, deny you the rights to certain treatments so that you will be forced to lose weight. B, blaming you for all of your problems so that they can justify not treating you. And force you to lose weight. And also just to, to do what abusers always do, to like reverse the order, like reverse the victim and the exploiter, the victim and the abuser. Like they're just like, oh, it's your fault. No, mate, it's not my fault. It's your fault. You are to blame. Doctors who stigmatize their patients, who traumatize their patients, who abuse their patients, so that their patients no longer feel able to seek out healthcare, who avoid doctors and then end up getting sick, and then they go and see their doctor eventually, and the doctor goes, "Well, you should have come and seen me earlier." Like that's not the patient's fault. That is the doctor's fault. And we use weight as an excuse so that we no longer have to be held accountable, and we're not allowed to use other things nowadays. Like you're kind of not allowed to blame the things that we used to blame. Like once upon a time, we were allowed to blame race, and that was great. We just blame race, and then the laws changed, and we weren't allowed to discriminate against black people anymore, and it was just so unfair. Now we have to do our jobs. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we do. I'm not suggesting that all of a sudden doctors have stopped racially discriminating against their patients, but they're legally not allowed to. But you are allowed to discriminate against fat patients. Like that's actually allowed. That's not just allowed. That's hospital policy in many cases. We will literally deny fat people healthcare and call it healthcare. We'll be like, we're just doing this because it's in your best interest, mate. It's not. It's exploitation at its most basic form. So if you want to fix healthcare inequalities, if you want a solution to, medical weight stigma, the solution is to fix racial capitalism. Good luck with that. Have fun. Or alternatively, as I suggested in the last episode, we try to find a way to get more creative. I I I recently read the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx and Joseph Engels. Yeah, I'm saying that publicly on on the airwaves, and I'm not even ashamed to say it. I read it. It's a book. There's nothing wrong with that. I read it actually to keep up with my son because my son read it and then he was like quoting it, and I felt quite ashamed that he was using words that I probably should know as a socialist, but didn't. So I was like, I better read this before I embarrass myself anymore. Like, he's going on about the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, and I was just like, oh, yes, bourgeoisie. Yeah, God, absolutely. Better look that up. And I find I'm not an expert, and I'm just doing a bit of light reading. I find this idea of what do we do instead of capitalism? Again, I don't know all of the answers, but I do know that some of the suggestions or solutions that Marx and Engels and other sort of socialists have offered is that there needs to be some form of collective ownership. Like healthcare should be a basic human right that is available to everybody. And in order for that to happen, there needs to be a collective ownership over the means of production. Because at the moment, there is a small group of people who own all the means of production. I grew up working in the NHS. It's all I've ever known. Since I was 18 years old and I was working as a nurse assistant, I have worked for the NHS until recently when I stopped. That is my one and only employer, my only experience of employment. And it's as far as I'm concerned, like one of the bastions of socialism, it's a free healthcare. And it is, it's free at the point of contact. So that is true, not denying that. But as an employer, the NHS would take on Amazon. Genuinely, I really think they'd give Amazon a run for their money. Like the NHS is one of the most exploitative employers that exist. Because whilst they're trying to perform socialism, they're doing it in a capitalist world. And the NHS as an employer, it's one of the biggest employers in the UK, possibly even the biggest employer in the UK. And they're cruel. Like they're cruel and inhumane. Like people always talk about like, oh, Amazon employees, sometimes they don't even get a toilet break. Ask a nurse if they have access to toilet breaks when they need to. Probably not. I used to not drink so that I would not pee, so that I could see all the patients that I needed to see before the morning clinic finished and ran into the afternoon clinic. Because if I did pee, if I did eat, if I did actually, if I didn't just sit at my desk and do my paperwork and eat a sandwich at the same time, I wouldn't get it all done. I just physically didn't have the time before my morning ran into my afternoon. And so that was my life as an employee for 20 fucking years. All I had was my skills and my qualifications and the skills I'd accumulated over the years, and I sold it to my employer. Literally, they paid me a wage. I didn't have the means of production. I was just a cog in the machine, and that machine exploited the fuck out of me. Literally squeezed me for all that I was worth. And the moment I found creative ways to, be productive and efficient, etc., they went, "Oh, cool! Here, have some more. Here, have some more work." It serves nobody's interest other than the employer to be efficient in the NHS, which is why it's so fucking inefficient. That's why all healthcare is. I know a lot of you are just like, why can't these people get on with their jobs? Because if these people get better at their jobs, they're going to have to do more work. And that's not fair to anybody. Like, it's not fair to anybody. It's a shitty system that we work in. And the people to blame are the people at the top. Because if you work in the NHS as an executive, you're earning a big fucking wage. It's not the doctors who are earning all the money. It's not the nurses, certainly. It's not the porters and the healthcare workers and all the people who are actually doing the hard work, the people cleaning up the vomit and the blood off the floor. They're not making the money. It's the fucking executives sitting in their offices making the decisions. They're the ones making the money. It is the pharmaceutical industry that is making the money. And this is actually, when I was asked the question, how would you fix it? If I had to fix it, if I had one wish, I would find a way to completely separate the pharmaceutical industry and the insurance industry from the healthcare industry. Like never the two shall meet. At the way it goes right now is that the pharmaceutical industry especially, but also the insurance industry, especially in the United States of America, has total utter control of research, of education, and of all of the guidelines and the guideline practices. Like they have control, and they have control in very subtle ways. They will do it in a way that makes their hands look clean, like, oh, look over here, I've done nothing wrong. Bullshit. They fund the research, which means that people who don't have pharmaceutical backing don't ever get published. Research never gets published. If it doesn't suit the agenda of the pharmaceutical industry, it's not getting published. They fund the training. Sometimes they do it illegally. Most of the times they do it legally, completely above board. But they're funding the training. They are literally sitting in the medical schools, teaching the medical students, because a lot of these professors, a lot of these teachers have financial ties to the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry pays numerous healthcare organizations you've all heard of: Diabetes UK, the American Diabetes Association, the Royal College of Physicians in the UK, the American Medical Association, the World Health Organization. Every single organization that people look to for advice and guidance, these kind of bastions of healthcare that are supposed to be completely fair and just and neutral, like Switzerland. Fuck that. They are paid for by the pharmaceutical industry and the insurance industry. And they have been from the beginning of modern medicine. So, fuck, man, you want to fix healthcare? You need to separate them. As Donald Trump would say, build a wall. Build a fucking wall, and nary the two shall cross ever again. Healthcare one side, big pharma on the other side. Fuck big pharma. And I mean, hey, listen, pharmaceuticals are essential. Like I take a whole bunch of medicines every day that I need the pharmaceutical industry to create for me to use them. And if we didn't have drugs, then a lot of people would be dead right now. So I'm not saying that they don't have any use. I'm just saying that I am done with them exploiting you, me, and everybody else, patients and doctors alike. I'm sick and tired of them exploiting us for their own profit, for extortionate amounts of money that like nobody should ever be allowed to earn. No company should ever be allowed to have that much money. Novo Nordisk should not have more capital than the country of Denmark, where they are from. Like that just shouldn't be allowed, right? I think we can all collectively agree that. So look, there are other solutions. Like there were other ways like to do this, to do healthcare. I'm not saying that I know what they are, and I don't know how to, I wouldn't even know how to put them into place, but there's something about collective ownership, collective resources. Like it doesn't have to be one person owning all of the means of production or one group of people owning all the means of production. We could all own the means of production, right? This is where the communism comes into it. Relax, relax. It's not the end of the world. You won't die. It's not an infection. You're not going to get sick from listening to this. I think in order to do that, we have to learn to support each other's existence. And I think this is where it gets uncomfortable because most of us are not comfortable enough to support ourselves. So how the fuck are we supposed to support other people? How are you supposed to be like, "Do you know what, Asha? I'm going to support you in your work financially, with my time, with my energy, whatever it is, when you don't have any money, time, or energy to get to spare." It's actually, like I said, there is no solution. I can't keep doing what I'm doing for free. And by free, I mean not just like physical money, but like energy, time, resources, all of that. I can't just do it forever, indefinitely, without any means of being remunerated. But at the same time, I understand that you aren't going to necessarily be able to help. If you can help, maybe you should help. When I'm in a position where I'm able to help, um, where I'm earning more than minimum wage, I'm going to try and help. Like I want to be one of the people that is helping as well as being helped. Um, I was recently accused of exploiting the vulnerable by a cunt whose name I shall not mention, but she knows who she is, and hopefully she's listening to this. I don't do that, but also it's tricky, isn't it? Because we need to support each other's existence. And if there are people out there who are trying to find alternative ways to the current system, then we have to find a way to keep them going. I think we also have to find a way to prioritize the needs of the most vulnerable, the most oppressed. Like those of us in a position of privilege have to find a way to help those who are not. And again, that's really tricky because none of us feel very privileged right now. None of us are feeling good. None of us are enjoying 2026. Like there are some people enjoying 2026, but they're not listening to this podcast. Fuck Elon Musk, the trillionaire. Fuck him. Ugh. I'm glad I got that off my chest. So, in summary, it's not your fault. It's not you, it's them. Racial capitalism. We're all pretty fucked, but also, if we get creative, there are solutions out there. We just have to figure them out together. I said last week, and I'll keep saying it, I am writing a set of healthcare guides, practical guides for fat people who are trying to navigate the healthcare system and being denied care. They're very practical. They're books. It's called the Way Forward series. Every time I publish one, it'll go straight on Amazon, and I'm just trying to like knock them out one after the other. So I've done one for joints. It's called My Joints Hurt, and eventually there will be others. I'll let you know in my newsletter. If you're not signed up to my newsletter, feel free to sign up. I only write you once a week. I try to be peppy, but not nice, because I'm done being nice. But I try to, give you some food for thought every week. And I'll put a link in there with the podcast episode. And if I've written a new book or something, or there's a healthcare guide out there that you might need or know someone else who will need, it'll all be in there. So that's me, and that's enough for today. I'll be back next week. And the title of the podcast episode is How I've Been Making Myself Smaller, which, as a fat person is very hard to do. But Thanks very much for listening. You take care.